The color magenta is a disaster. It has an identity crisis. This is RGB magenta. And this is the pigment quinacridone magenta. Focus on that patch in the center. That's pure PR122 magenta. Magenta is somewhere between red and violet. It's non-spectral, which means it doesn't have its own wavelength, and it's negative green. But beyond that, color spaces seem to have trouble with it. It's hard to place it. And forget about trying to put it on a traditional red, yellow, blue color wheel. The best you can get is some kind of desaturated red-violet. But in spaces where we do have magenta, it gets worse. Let's take a look at the case of RGB. RGB would have us believe that magenta is perfectly positioned between red and blue. But the problem is, RGB red is a little on the orange side, and RGB blue is, well, pretty much in blue-violet territory. And to make matters worse, most actual RGB gamuts don't match what they're theoretically supposed to look like. Here, for example, is Adobe RGB mapped on C-Lab. Look at blue. Look at RGB blue. It's like, and you can see magenta is kind of like wedged up in there. Okay, you're saying it's not that complicated. Magenta, red, violet, whatever you call it, it's the same concept. Unfortunately, no. Because if you look at CCAM or C-Lab, these color space models that are based on the opponent process theory, they've got this red-green axis. But it's not really red-green. It's really magenta and like a bluish green. Because if you map pigments to it, quinacridone magenta is almost exactly perfectly on that axis, which means red in opponent process theory is actually magenta. I think part of the problem is that the concept of magenta is so young. The first magenta dye was first called mauve, and it wasn't discovered until 1856, around the same time that Maxwell and Young and these other people were basically inventing modern color theory. So they didn't have the words for it, and a lot of the older textbooks use red or like cool red or whatever. And so we just have this problem that there's no standard way of talking about this neighborhood of the spectrum. I won't lie to you. This upsets me.